So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode here of the talk show that we're going to be talking about for the Efed call community. I feel like, I've sat back and saw, a couple of my friends getting attacked. And this, needs to be discussed immediately. I mean, it really comes down to the point that this is the reason why that we are having issues within the community. And one of those issues is plain simple. We have people that literally wants to cause divisions when it needs about unity. So let me explain what I mean by divisions. Divisions is when you lie and falsely accuse someone of their doings that they did not do. And the reason why my title is named The Most Hated for Being Real is because most people couldn't handle the truth that I speak. They hate the fact and the sad part about this is this is we are supposed to be a community that's much on unity and not divisions, right? But how can you be this thing on a unity when you have trust issues, when you completely listen to people that literally brainwash you, making you believe something that's not true? And what I'm literally saying is this. It's kind of funny that this whole genre or this whole agenda of them, attacked my, good friend, the owner of WWU. And this is where I draw the line. This is where I stand up and protect not only Daniel, my good friend, but also stand up for what's right. And you see, the facts is this. You can't stand people when they speak the truth. Especially this one individual, I'm going to basically call him out for being a negative person, talking about someone's girlfriend, saying that she needs to dress better. Like, dude, let me tell you something. There's two things that I learned, about relationships. You don't get in the middle of people's relationships, especially for what you've done. A lot of Efed companies got a hold of me over this one individual. And to be honest, I'm not going to say much input in this, but I'm going to speak my mind. I got a right to speak my mind on a couple things. And there's a reason why that I have this picture here about 2026. This is going to be my new agenda that on my end. And it says 2026 is coming. Delete negative people. forget your past, accept your mistakes, and restart your life. You see, there's a problem with people that really hate it because I put them on the block list. They hate it because they ain't got the power. They hate it because I stopped their negative agendas from happening on my channel. And I know Daniel's probably going to be listening to this, and I just want to say this. I think it's downright disgusting that what this individual done to him and his girlfriend. To me, and I'm not saying no names, I'm just saying what needs to be said here. In all honesty, I think that instead of making it hard on people and just attacking people, especially, you know, if they in a relationship and you get mad because they don't want you back in their companies, to me, I'm going to call you out for what I see you as. And that's being childish. There's a reason why that I have this new agenda for my channel. Delete, forget, accept, restart. I deleted the negative people. I forgot my past. I accepted my mistakes. And I'm restarting my life. And here's the main thing about this. You know, J Kid had a good point that I'm going to bring up here. And, you know, this topic's going to be hitting home as well as anything else before I really get started into the Efed thing, what I was going to do earlier. To me, we all supposed to be like one community, one common goal to kick out the negativity. But how can you kick out the negativity when you have people like this that wants to get in relationships and tries to break people up? You know, here's what I think WWE 2K needs to do. This is my standpoint. This is my thing, what they definitely need to do on this part. I really think 2K needs to step it up. And the reason why I say this is this. And this is where the heartbeat comes into play. Because it's going to pretty much make people hate the truth. Because if WWE 2K done something with community creations, and personally, here's what I think they need to do as far as like rules. If you don't really own the attire, or if you don't really made that attire, why are you stealing people's creativity and trying to claim it as your own? So in other words, I think WWE pretty much needs to shut down accounts that wants to steal people's ideals. That will be most of the problems going on that end. Now, here's what I also think that WWE needs to do also. Now, there's a lot of things I'm going to talk about. You know, like it says, the most hated for being real. You might as well just soak up the madness, because there's going to be some people that's not going to like it. There's going to be some people that's going to hate it. But, you know, Kevin Impact's right. He's got his haters. I got mine. But that's okay. You ever heard the old saying, haters are the greatest motivators? Let them hate. Haters is going to hate. And to be honest, here's what I'm going to say about this. I really think that if WWE had a system to where it's basically blocking all of the toxicity out, which means if you steal people's ideology, steal people's creativity, in other words, if you take their logos and do something to try to piss them off just because you're mad at them because what they spoke the truth of, I think WWE needs to delete those accounts that cause drama and pretty much cancel them. That will solve a whole lot of toxicity in the Efed world. Now, will it make people mad? Pretty much. Yes, it will, because it will pretty much chop down. In other words, it's like, you know, I don't know if you guys ever had to do farming. You know, when you have like a bad crop, you got to chop it down or it's going to affect the whole crops. So, you know, kind of like with people that's in the Efed community, when you got one cancerous individual or individuals that is causing problems, that is causing all this negativity, you need to cancel them out. Take them out, get rid of them, ship them out the door, and don't bring them back. That's simple as that. That's how you deal with that issue. Now, like I said, I know I'm going to have haters after this, and I'm fine with it because you know what? Out of anybody in the room, I'm man enough to come on here to speak the truth, and a lot of people ain't going to be able to handle the truth. I mean, but it's okay. 2026 coming. We're going to start the whole system over because you can read right here, delete negative people. I'm getting to be 32 years old. I don't have time for people that's got an IQ rate as a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old when they pretty much are in their 30s and 40s. Sorry, not sorry. Act your age, not your IQ. Pretty much like that. Now, I will pretty much say this. What I really think about people that you know, like Daniel's case, and I'll give him a shout out. Shout out to WWE for this because I'm pretty much going to go hard topic with this as it needs to be talked about. Daniel was personally attacked by this one individual. I'm not going to say his name. He knows who he is. And pretty much he basically said something about his girlfriend that was not really in character, more like a character shot, pretty much taking personal issues because he got kicked out of Efed, which was childish on his behalf. Now, I'm going to stand up for the truth here. And the truth is this. If you're literally going to have to attack a man over you getting kicked out of an Efed, which was your fault to begin with because of the drama, then really you shouldn't be mad at the owner. You should be mad at yourself. I mean, that's truth. You know, I've learned a lot throughout these months that I had to learn on my own. I mean, I don't really give who gets mad at this point. I'm speaking my mind. Now, we get back on the issue, back to the call community. There's a lot of things that I think for 2K26 they need to do. Stealing people's creativity, I think it needs to be, they need to do like baseball. 3 strikes, you're out. If the person that uploaded it to CCs did not give you full content of downloading, then you shouldn't be downloading it. And I think that WWE needs to put it in the system that if you download it and didn't ask that person, I think 1, they give you a warning. 2nd, they need to suspend your account for 30 to 40 days. And then 3rd, they cancel your account from the servers, which means you can't get back on CCs. That's what I think they need to do. Now, here's what I really think about the call community. Now, this is going to get into more detailed infos here. And I'm going to say this right here. What I think about the call wrestling community. Now, here's what I think about this. There's good parts about it. I'm not saying bad parts about it. You meet cool people. I mean, this year, things had to happen. I basically done my own journey in the call wrestling community, went over and met a good friend of mine, which is Kevin Impact. We actually talked about a lot of stuff on his podcast, which is the City of Impact. I think it was episode 17 that you guys are going to go listen to. Really good talk show, 3 hours worth. I mean, we talked about, we covered a lot of wrestling topics, whether it was call or pro wrestling, real life stuff. We pretty much done the whole 9 yards about this. Kevin Impact, here's the reason why I like JTV and Kevin Impact, as well as Ricky and AHW. Those 2 guys, as long as you are active, you're going to get your pushes. Now, if you don't show any activity or if you don't show any interest, you're not going to get what you put into it out of it, if that makes sense. Now, the next question I'm going to ask is this. Now, I know this has been a huge topic about Jake Paul. Now, your thoughts about Jake Paul. Now, if you guys not watched the fight between him and Alexander, I think it's Alexander Joshua. Jake Paul suffered a double broken jaw. I mean, that fight was, it was a good fight. I'm not going to say that it was, the worst main event in boxing history. To me, it was a good fight. I mean, both of them put it on the line, but at the end, Jake Paul that right hook literally broke Jake Paul's jaw. In other words, Joshua just knocked his jaw completely out of socket. And what I've been reading online, I don't know if this is true, but you guys can put in the comments as well, that this man has suffered surgery to fix his jaw. So, well, double broken jaw. So, I don't know how I don't know if it's true or not, so you guys can put in the comments about that. But I thought the stuff about Jake Paul was stuff he was going through, like surgery-wise, was, heartbreaking, because, nobody wants to have a double broken jaw, and nobody wants to go through what he went through. Because, I mean, I could just imagine, especially the pain. I've had a couple broken bones myself, and I know the pain, but I've really never had a broken jaw. So, I mean, I can't really say that I know the pain of that, but I can guarantee you it's got to be painful if I'm saying so, because that broken jaw that he suffered in that fight, I mean, he's going to be out for months, maybe weeks. He's going to be out for a long time. I've talked to some of people that watched the fight, and one of my good friends, actually, and he even said he's going to be out for a while. I mean, but we could see Jake Paul come back. I mean, you guys watched the movie, I think it's Rocky Balboa, when he comes back, the Eye of the Tiger. They could be playing it as the Eye of the Tiger sort of thing, where he comes back, wins it against the guy, and, all celebration happens. Now, could be different. I'm not saying they're going to go down this road, but I'm just saying it could be different. Boxing's different than professional wrestling, because it's either adapt or perish. It means you literally have to fight to put out your opponent for, I think, a 10 count when the referees, or when they get knocked out. But I really think Jake Paul, after seeing that fight, I think he needs to really take a break. And not only take a break, but just sit back, enjoying his time with family, with people that's close to him, and just sit back and enjoy life. Because, being knocked out, I mean, me and my friend talked about this also. Being knocked out, that could have led to something serious. I mean, I've literally went to MMA events that one dude got kicked in the head and literally had to get EMTs because he couldn't wake up. So, I mean, that's the part of the sport. That's the thing that, these guys sign up for. It's not like wrestling. It's not ballet where they get a broken neck or, some sort of injury, but they still, can get up from. Now, going back to MMA, I think one of the guys that Jake Paul beat, which was Tyron Woody, he was a former MMA fighter. He was actually booked on that pay-per-view. So, now, we're going to switch the topic over from that. Now we're going to get on to more call community stuff. I'm setting this up right now, so give me a moment. I hope you guys got questions in the chat. If you guys got questions, I will try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. So, okay, we go back to the call community. We talked about the Jake Paul fight. I said what I got to say on that. Now I'm going to go to the call community on positive subjects. Now, if you guys want to be a part of the call community, I know a couple companies that are looking for talent, especially companies that really want to see people succeed and be a part of something that is pretty much drama free. Now, JTV is one of them. JTV Wrestling. Huge shout out to Kevin Impact for what he does over JTV. Also, AHW, which is Ricky Armstrong's company. Huge shout out to him for what he does. You have WWU, which is Daniel, which is Alpha Wolf's company. Huge shout out to him. Also, you have Sunrise World Order, which is Reese's company. Huge shout out to him on that. We got MPW, which is Ray's company. So there's that on the issue on the live. I'm trying to think of more companies here. You also got mine. Then you got PWA, which is JMR's on that. Then you got DJ Chaotix, which is KWF. So there's a lot of companies that you can be a part of that you can escape reality from, and it's pretty much keeping you away from the negativity. Now, the question I'm going to ask here is this, and this goes in my comment section for anybody to comment. Now, I know my comments are not really full at this point, but I'm asking the questions. Who would you guys like to see on the channel far as a talk show interview that I'm going to be doing with this? It could pretty much be anybody. It could be somebody in the call community. It could be somebody in the wrestling community. It could be somebody in the boxing community, MMA, etc., movie star, whatever the case may be. So who would you guys like to see exactly be on the up-and-coming episodes? I mean, we could bring in big names in the call community. I know one of them is actually, I'm not going to spoil nothing, but if you keep watching the episodes, you never know who I might bring in. So stay tuned and find out what I'm going to do on that. Now, I'm also, for this little thing, I'm also going to invite somebody in real quick that let me get everything ready down to go. Now, before we end this live here, there's the last question. Well, actually, not the last question, but it's going to be this as soon as I post this up here. A Q&A. Questions and answers. Now, like I said, You guys can feed the live chat with this. Whatever you guys want to talk about, I'll try to answer it the best of my knowledge. The power is in your guys' hands. So be creative. Another thing I'm going to talk about is this. Time you guys got your questions and answers in the chat here. Now, I don't know if you guys watched Saturday night's main event. Want to also throw this in. What do you guys think about that? You can guys ask questions, answers, whatever you guys want to do in the chat. But the power is yours. Now, when we wait on these questions here, I'll also go check the guest room because I've got a little special guest on here. But you guys got questions and answers. Anything you guys want to ask, now's the time to do so. Long as it pertains to wrestling, MMA, etc. If it's anything negative, don't ask it. Plain and simple. AHW said he believes in KD. So I'm going to show this on stage for a minute because this is going to. So let me tell everybody about this. So Ricky here, he made a song. So if you guys have made this, if you guys actually listen to Joe Hendry's theme song for WWE, says I believe in Joe Hendry. Well, Ricky made his own version of it. I believe in KD, and KD, I love you like a brother, so don't hold me to this, but I'm trying to get this out. So when he started doing I Believe in KD, KD actually liked it. And also, so it's on his YouTube channel. So another thing I'm going to show here is this. So here's a man that I basically said that I wouldn't bring his name up, but Ricky brought it up. And this is the man that literally talked about Daniel and his girlfriend, which is the owner of WWU. And this dude needs to be banned from all feds. All feds. So I'm just going to unhide that. You guys saw who the name was. So I'm going to go back to this. So going back to the Q&A part, we're going to do the Q&A here. So this Q&A, you guys can pretty much have any questions that you want to ask, you know, whether it's pro wrestling, whether it's MMA, the Jake Paul fight, call community-wise, and I'll try my best to answer them. So I'm going to put this question up since this guy's answering here. So basically, welcome WW Havoc. Thank you for coming in and stopping by asking this question. The guy's name I will show on the stage here again. I won't really say his name, but you guys can put it as like a Joe Hendry thing. Here's the guy's name that needs to be banned from all feds because what he did to WW owner Daniel. This is the guy's name. Not going to say it, but Ricky brought it up. Going to leave it up there and moving on with the subject. So going back to the Q&A, any questions? Pretty much what J Kid is saying, he pretty much bullied somebody, which is not right. And there's two things I can't really stand is a liar and a bully. That's two of the things I can't stand. So you guys got any questions, now's the time to. And I definitely agree with that. And welcome to the channel, by the way. So basically what I know about the dude, let me play you guys the thing that he said to Daniel personally. So you guys got the So J Kid asked a question. I will get yours next. I'm actually doing this Monday, Alpha, so if you want to be a part of this, you just have to contact me and we can set up an episode. We're doing it. I already got somebody for episode 2, so it's going to be Monday at 6:15 p.m. But let me go to the message here so you guys can actually hear this. And I hope that you guys can actually hear this. It's downright disturbing at what was said. I know Daniel sent this to me. I'm trying to go look for it, so give me just a minute here. I think it's in the WWE locker room chat, so I'm going to have to go there to find it. But I remember him sending this. So right here.
Tell your girlfriend she needs to cover up. I'm blocking you, you fucking weirdo. You're racist to Muslims. Because I'm a Muslim, you also kick me out. You're legal. You seem to think I'm a Christian because I'm white. Why don't you stop it? And also, your girlfriend looks ugly, mate.
So, in other words, attacking him and his girlfriend. That was in the WWE chat by Daniel. Daniel pretty much shared that out. And we got pretty much evidence on this dude for that. Now, going back to these questions. So that what I know about the dude, I've heard that he was toxic, so negative, and I also have full proof that Daniel sent me that pretty much proved it by his actions, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go hide that comment from stage. Now, I think Ricky asked a question, who is Batman? I'm going to answer this. Batman in my book was, if we talk about the same one that I loved in the Marvel comics, that was Joker's greatest rival, he was pretty much a hero character that I would say probably be he's probably one of the best, in my opinion. Now, everybody's got their different opinions about it, but he was one of my very best growing up as my childhood. Batman was actually awesome. I remember as a kid watching him every, I think it was Saturday morning. I think it was either on Toonami or I think Dad or Mom would pretty much have like DVDs, buy me DVDs at like Walmart. But because back then, you know, DVDs was like the VHR thing. It was pretty much real common for my childhood. Now, I remember J-Kid telling me this, you know, when he was a kid, he used to get the VSRs, which is like the tape cassettes. So my childhood was about like the DVDs. That was my like tape cassettes. So let's go back to the J-Kid actually asked another question here I'm going to answer real quick is, do I have any issues with him? No, but I don't deal with toxicity. That's one thing that I don't deal with. I try to avoid that at all costs. You know, I'm pretty much changed. So I try to not really get into the toxic stuff because, one, I'm focusing on my cause CJ Mondo, focus on AHW, JTV, and all these other companies I'm in, and try to not stick to their level, if that makes sense. Also, I know it's Ray's birthday. I sent him a stage invite. I don't know if he's going to come in here or not, but shout out to Ray for his birthday today. I think I saw that on one of the JTV posts that Kevin Impact put on the JTV Facebook group chat. Current relationship with Ray. I mean, I really don't have any problems with Ray. Ray's, you know, like I said, a good guy. Like I said, I don't try to get into the arguments or the heated stuff between him. But I don't try to really do like other people do, is pretty much cause all this negative and toxic stuff. and talk bad about him. But back to the question of a current relationship with Ray, I think he's a good guy. You know, when it comes down to the editing part, you know, like you said, J Kid, he's a mad scientist. He knows what he's doing. I mean, you can look at his MPW shows and the way he does highlight reel and the stuff he does on his end. I mean, shit, I wished I was talented as him. And that's me saying it in general. There's some people that, you know, can't do what he does. Now, Ricky had a good question here I'm going to bring up. And he said, what is the current state between AEW versus WWE and TNA and AAA? Here's what I think about that. Now, since you asked this question, you're going to get an honest answer. So be prepared by this. To me, WWE is not the WWE that I know, because TKO pretty much... What's the word I'm trying to look for? They pretty much like killed the WWE I remember. It's not the same WWE as, you know, the WWE I remember, you know, being the golden era with, you know, Bret the Hitman Hart, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, you know, Shawn Michaels, Bret the Hitman Hart, Kevin Nash, you know, all those guys. It's not really the WWE I remember. And they've, you know, and I understand that they are in the, I guess you could say they in like financially struggling because of the company that they bought with UFC. To me, they shouldn't use WWE and do what they did, trying to make it all about money. So, in all honesty about this, going back to his question, the current state of AEW, WWE, TNA, and AAA, out of all four of those companies, personally, I really think, for me, I think TNA would do good if they actually went out of this partnership reach with WWE and pretty much went on their own. I think they would do more better, because TKO's WWE, it puts me in mind of, you know, and I understand that, you know, we got some ECW fans in the building. This TKO reminds me of when Vince bought ECW back in 2006 and pretty much made it a watered down ECW, which, you know, personally I didn't like, because I was a huge ECW fan. I remember, you know, Shane Douglas, the franchise. I hold him dear to my heart. He's one of the damn best, and still will be one of the damn best. Then you had Terry Funk, Sandman, Sabu, Raven, Taz, Just Incredible, Super Crazy, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio. I mean, three WWE wrestlers right there that was in ECW. Also, Shane was a WWE wrestler, because he actually won the Intercontinental titles. So, what I really think about the current state of AEW versus WWE, that's the first question that comes to mind. When you put these two companies on the scale, and you put TNA and AEW on the scale with them to make it a 4-scale unit, I think out of those four companies, I think out of the two that I personally would pick, I think AEW and TNA's got it in the back. Because WWE, you know, I have to agree with Kevin Impact here. It's not the same WWE that we remember as kids. You know, the Golden Era, Attitude Era. You had the what was the era it was called before the Golden Era? Is back when Bruno Sammartino was WWE champion. That was like old wrestling history there. Now going back on J Kids thing, the podcast we're doing 6:15 p.m. tomorrow. So if you guys actually want to stay tuned for the podcast, you don't know who I'm going to bring. It could be somebody totally different, but it will be 6:15 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff in call community, a lot of stuff about pro wrestling, a lot of stuff, you know, like ECW, for example. I'm a huge fan. I'm still going to talk about ECW. ECW has been one of my favorites. You know, especially Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas, there's a reason why the guy's named the franchise. He's pretty much one of the best to ever do it. Ricky asked a question here. Will they bring WCW as a NXT time of brand? To be honest, that is a good question. I don't know if they're going to get J-Kid good as bringing WCW, which I'm not going to spoil anything on that show, but you guys need to watch it when he gets that out because that was a damn good show. Only thing I'm going to say on that. But going back to the NXT, if they're going to bring it as WCW as NXT time of brand. Now, that is a good touchy subject because we're talking about WWE here. Okay, we're talking about NXT. I truthfully have to say this. If they was going to bring back WCW, I really think that it needed to be a bigger stage than NXT because, you know, to me, WCW was one of those big time phenomenons, you know. I really think it needs to be on the main roster, and here's the reason why that I say that. You know, I really think, you know, you need to bring like stars that are actually in today's that is pretty much living, you know, like Shane Douglas, Tommy Rich, the Great Muta, Bret Hart, Goldberg, you know, those stars. So there's a lot of things that I personally think WWE could do if they was able to bring it back for one night. They could actually do something, you know, especially with the personally, I think a main event, if they was going to bring back WCW, I think they need to rewrite and make this better between Bret Hart and Goldberg. Let those two, like, even if they, you know, and I know, you know, Bret Hart's old now, he can't physically get back in the ring, but they can also do like a, like they did at, I think it was Super Showdown with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. I think it was Ric Flair when they done that huge Team Hogan versus Team Flair kind of thing. I think they need to do that with Goldberg and Bret Hart. I think that would pretty much set the stage on its entirety. Now, going back out of this, because I'm going to go back to the comments here, I'm going to show this on stage. Now, if you guys want to watch a damn good show, this is going to be a damn good show that's popping up here. December 24, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will return WCW on the JTV Wrestling Channel with me, of course. Not going to spoil anything that happens, but only thing I'm going to tell you guys is like Tommy Rich would tell us on his show, Wildfire Championship Wrestling, don't miss it, be there. That's the only thing I'm going to say on that. So going back to the the AEW with Ricochet. I saw also that they done the title. They kind of made their own version of the NWA National Heavyweight title, but for AEW. I think Ricochet was the first ever champion. So, getting back on this subject, I really think that if they let Ricochet go, I really think that they need to put somebody that is a national heavyweight champion material before they let anything go. Because to me, that national heavyweight championship, especially if AEW is going to represent NWA and bring like the prestige of the NWA National Heavyweight Championship, there's a lot of guys that's actually won that National Heavyweight Championship. So it's one of those things that you just have to sit back and study, the title histories and the history of, both of these companies. I know AEW, started, but NWA, I mean, their title history is like so far back. I mean, it is, you could go, from Tommy Rich to Harley Race to guys like Ric Flair, guys like Jeff Jarrett. I mean, it keeps going back for that NWA World Heavyweight title. And it's, wrestling, here's what I'm going to say on that. Wrestling, it has its ups and downs as well as its changes. Even the Efed business, it should be the same way as the wrestling business. There will be changes. It's always going to be a revolving change. To me personally, I really think that, one, if you can't accept the change, in the call business or in the real life business, and if you can't handle the pressure of both of them, then really and truly, I don't really think that you need to be in there. That's just my opinion. Enough said on that. Going back to another question that J Kid asked here, pretty much is a good question. Also, I'm going to reverse the question back to you guys as soon as I answer this, of course. Any New Year's resolutions for 2026 in call or live? New Year's resolution, definitely want to make CJ Mondo a big name in call. That's the ultimate goal, because I feel like that I can pretty much do it. It's just going to take me studying and getting every, hard work, kind of pays off. So I really think that it's going to be something spectacular for 2026, new year, new beginnings. And also, I mean, who knows what 2026 might hold? You may see me wear a championship of AHW or JTV, or, being a part of, bigger companies that's out there that really needs a star like myself to be a part of. Who knows what this, this coming year might hold? It may, in real life too, because you never know. I could come out with a knee injury and not even do it in real life, but I also got the call. So, I mean, you never know really what 2026 might hold. It's got its, roller coaster moments of up and downs. So going back on the question, the New Year's resolutions for 2026, one of those resolutions, like I said before, making CJ Mondo better, making him more legendary, making him more of a big name than he was 4 to 6 years ago. In life, I'm not really trying to, be this big time wrestler. I'm just doing it, in case I do get a family or a wife or a girlfriend, etc. I'm just going to do it, to take care of her or, her kids or, my kids, etc. That's what I'm doing the real business for. I'm not really doing it, just to make a name. Now, if, I was 20 years younger, then yeah, I'd probably much do a career out of it. But no, I'm just doing it to just make money, just to live life and do it that way. I guess you could say that. Now, Ricky said something, and I want to try to go to this. Chris Jericho's return in 2026. What I really think about this is Chris Jericho to return in WWE, there's going to have to be a lot of not only creative work, but also storyline work. And not only storyline work, it's literally got to be management also Jericho has to pull from his contract with AEW. Now, Jericho, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a big name. He's done it all in WWE, winning the world title, becoming the undisputed champion. I mean, I really won't say Jericho won't return to WWE because it could be a shocker because we got the Royal Rumble coming up, so he could possibly come there. Who knows? But only thing I'm saying is there's going to be a lot of stuff that needs to happen before Jericho makes his return, especially with the AEW contracts. If Jericho was to come to WWE, there has to be a negotiation on the table that fits Jericho's likings as well as WWE's likings. So basically, it's got to be a mutual agreement between both the two. And, you know, that's where a lot of, I think, wrestlers nowadays, you know, especially, you know, whether you're doing it in real life and also the call business, when you don't have that mutual agreement, then it don't really work out. You got to be, you know, the call community, especially, you got to show unity, not division, if that makes perfectly sense from that. And I'm going to try to go down to the thing with AJ Styles here. Personally, what I think about AJ Styles to retire, I don't really think he needs to retire. I think that if he had one more match in TNA, I really think that WWE should have him go one more time for the TNA World Title. Because especially if it's on TNA's side, I think it needs to be the TNA theme song that he originally had, which was Get Ready to Fly. That was one of my, I guess you could say, one of the biggest things that was in AJ's career that I personally think that AJ would benefit from if he won the world title, especially if WWE gave him more creative for his theme for the Get Ready to Fly. I mean, personally, I don't really like his WWE theme. I think, you know, WWE needs to get that theme that he had in TNA, Get Ready to Fly. That fit AJ perfectly. Speaking about AJ, I want to ask you guys a question in the chat before I get to the comment that Immortal Alpha just said here. What did you guys think about the segment between AJ Styles and Gunther on this past Raw on Netflix? If you guys not watched Netflix and the segment between AJ Styles and Gunther, the backstage segment, or, well, it was pretty much the parking lot segment. What do you guys think about that segment? That what Gunther did? And I'm leaving that for you guys to answer in the chat. You guys pretty much have your own opinions and your way of thinking of your ideology about that segment. Now, going back to the contract with the AEW, with Alpha here, I really think that if he didn't sign with AEW, and if this is true, I've not really done my research on it, but I will do my research on this. I really think if he don't resign, we possibly could see him at one of WWE's Big Four pay-per-views. One would be coming this January, which is the Royal Rumble. The second one would be WrestleMania. Third one would be SummerSlam, and the fourth one would be Survivor Series. That would be where we see Chris Jericho return. Now, here's the reason why that I say this. For a big name like Chris Jericho, that would be my ideology if I was a part of the creative team of WWE to bring him back at one of the Big Fours. Now, knowing what they did to John Cena, also a big name, they also had him on Saturday night's main event. So, to be honest, it's really a coin toss of what WWE really decides, because at this point, going back to the creative, I think WWE's lost their creative team. I did see also, if you guys didn't notice this, Mick Foley fell away from WWE. He says it's not the same WWE he worked for. I read that on Facebook. I think it was on Mick Foley's Facebook. And, when I read that, I was actually shocked because, I really, in my book, I really didn't think Mick Foley would pretty much leave the company, like pretty much say, I don't want nothing to do with it. That, personally, that shocked me because, Mick Foley, he's been in WWE for 20, I'd say 20 to at least 25 years, at least, somewhere in that segment. Also ECW, he was under Cactus Jack under ECW. So, Mick Foley's been around the block with, ECW and WWE. Well, it was WWF, but still WWE because they changed the name. Also, going back to the other things I'm going to see here. I know there's a comment. Ricky Putt here. I'm going to share it out. And to me, I think this is actually a good reference. Because, after seeing Gunther not only beat Goldberg and now Cena, this is actually probably true about this because he's beat two of the legends. So I really think you're going to be right about it, Ricky, about him being the new legend killer. I mean, he's beat two of the I would say very, very best, because Cena is actually a good wrestler. So who knows what's going to come to that. Also, a top heel on AJ will be good challenger for Gunther. To be honest, if Gunther was, and I'm going to show this on stage, of course, if Gunther was able to take on AJ, I really personally think that it needs to be AJ Styles that we saw in TNA that had the evil ways. That would be a perfect challenge for Gunther. Because we saw what AJ Styles did when he had that gimmick of evil ways when he was in TNA. So if WWE actually allowed that, I think that would be a good storyline for Gunther. Now, going back to this, what Mortal Alpha said, I think setting Gunther to take his career and elevating him to feud at Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. Here's the thing that I would say, if this match was to happen, it probably would be at SummerSlam. Because SummerSlam is hosting under Brock's hometown in Minnesota. So if they was able to set this up, I think this would be a SummerSlam match. And Brock, he's not really got many years left because, I mean, not only that, but I think personally that, when you get up to the age that these guys get, it's harder to perform when you're like 20 years up, 20-year-old or, 18, up to 35s. When you get up to your 40s and 50s and 60s, it's kind of harder to perform like you was when you was in your prime. So basically, it's one of those things that you have to look at that it's basically age is taking its course, and I personally think that this match is definitely going to happen at SummerSlam. I'm not saying you're wrong about this, but I also think that if this match is going to happen, I think John Cena is going to get involved somehow because what Gunther said on Raw, stating John Cena tapped out like a bitch. So I really think John Cena is going to get involved in this match at SummerSlam. Now, if WWE decides to make it that Brock wins due to Cena's interference or something of that nature, who knows what the storyline in the story writers and the creative teams got planned behind the scenes. Because they got a lot of stuff that they can literally, you know, for like JTV, for example, I'm pretty sure Kevin Impact, you know, when he sees newer talent like myself and other people come in, I'm pretty sure he's got his creative team, just like Ricky, just like myself. You know, we all try to have different creative minds that sets us from different unique part about us. Same thing with WWE. They got their own ways of doing stuff behind the scenes. And if they actually, personally, I think, and this is actually a touchy subject on this. Don't get me wrong about this, because this is a touchy subject. Personally, I think before Mick Foley decided to part ways with WWE, I think Mick Foley would be a good storyline writer because he's done the business. Also, you know, I think at one time, Mick Foley's son, I think his name's Dewey, he was actually a storyline writer. So personally, I think that if he's splitting ways with WWE like I read on Facebook, then before he splitted his ways, I really think that WWE should have really reached out to him to ask him to do, like, you know, behind the scenes, like story writing. Because to be honest, I think Mick Foley would be an excellent story writer. Especially, you know, with these, you know, newer guys, you know, which they call the new era. I really think it should set the standards apart, because, you know, these newer guys are taking over. These newer guys are going to be the next Brock, the next John Cena, the next Batista, the next Randy Orton. But also at the same time, you got to look at it on the career standpoint. These newer guys are here to basically open a door for the new generation. You know, you look at, you know, back in, I think it was 2002, John Cena became the prototype. He stepped in the ring with Kurt Angle. And that's where he got his big hype from, because the Ruthless Aggression era. So who knows what WWE might do with the newer talent that's, you know, in, you know, wrestling schools such as OVW and, you know, the rest of the stuff. I mean, it'd be, to be honest, it'd be interesting to see. Now I'm going to go back on Ricky's subject with this. CJ Mondo versus Gunther. They would have to pay me a lot of good money for health insurance, because I would get my ass completely handed to me. I mean, not saying I would try to fight the man, but that would be a, like, probably the toughest match in my real life career. But I don't really think that I would pretty much be the John Cena where I'm like the Super Mondo, you know. So the CJ Mondo versus Gunther match, I got to say that I probably get my ass kicked, because Gunther's been in it, I'd say probably 20 to 35 years at least. So that's where that tone was set into play with that. Now, here's another question I'm going to ask before we end the live stream. And this is for the chat. Out of these three companies I'm going to mention, which one was your guys' favorite wrestling promotions when you was either a child or a grown adult? And the three choices are this: AEW, WWE, or ECW. You guys got, feel free to download the live chat on this for this segment to pretty much have its thoughts and what you guys think as your guys' opinions. So we got AHW that said it was ECW and WWF. Then we have J Kid Gaming said he's watched all three, but he also said it was mostly WWE, WWF. So if you guys actually want to be a part of something, I'm going to give huge shout outs here before I close this live stream. There's going to be shows that I would recommend if you decided to get in call community. One of those would be Player versus Player with JTV. If you're looking for an AI home, you got TNA, which is Titan Nation Alliance, which is mine. You got AHW, which is Ricky Armstrong's. You got WWU, which is branded off to Daniel, which he has 3 different companies, and it's ran or streamed by 3 different people, because I know he's got 3 shows. You got PWA, you got MPW, which is Ray's, you got Sunrise World Order, which is Reese. There's another one on top of my head here. I know I'm part of the chat here. You got Sunrise World Order. I've already said that one. I'm trying to think of other companies here I'll give a shout out to. I've already said JTV. Already said WWU. Of course, my company, Sunrise. PWA. Now we get into KWF, which is DJs. I forgot about him, so that's another one. But if you're looking for companies to be a part of, that's what I would recommend here for the closing. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this fantastic live stream that, you know, gave their questions and also my answers honestly, what I could answer them honestly. Tune in for tomorrow night, 6:15 p.m. as the talk show is going to get real. It's going to talk about the car community. Me and this guest is pretty much going to burn it down with the questions and also the answers. You never know who I might bring for episode 2, so you may want to stay tuned and get that popcorn and get those drinks ready, because as we say at Wildfire, you don't need to miss it. You need to be there.